Hey guys, hello, welcome to Naveed for Speed. This car right here is the Suzuki S-Cross. It's the slightly larger sibling to the Suzuki Vitara and it promises to be more practical. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you around the car. I'm going to be showing you exactly how practical it is, and I'm going to be taking it on a drive to show you exactly how it feels to drive. So let's get into it. The Suzuki S-Cross comes with a 1.5 litre normally aspirated engine and a 140 volt hybrid power supply. In two-wheel drive models, it promises up to 54.3 miles per gallon combined. It comes with an auto gearbox, but manual is available in the mild hybrid version. All Suzuki models come with a 3-year 60,000 miles warranty for new cars with 1-year AA Suzuki assistance. So to start with, let's take a look at the styling of the Suzuki S-Cross, because aside from practicality, that's one of the main differences between this car and the Vitara. And you'll notice if you look at both cars side by side that the Suzuki S-Cross looks like it has a higher bonnet and it sits slightly higher as well. And that is because of this high bonnet line that you get at the front. It really complements the piano black grille that you get at the front of the car and really makes it stand out. So styling wise, it does really well, but personally I think the Vitara looks slightly better than the S-Cross. You also get the 3 LED lamps on either side for your headlights, which are great for seeing in the dark. As we move towards the side of the car, you can see the 17-inch alloy wheels. Now, because this is the Ultra spec, you can get this car in two specs, the Motion spec and the Ultra spec. In the Motion spec, you get 17-inch painted alloy wheels, and in the Ultra spec, you get 17-inch polished alloy wheels. Now, they look really good, nice clean finish. Although it looks like if you were to curb these wheels, it would really show up, but otherwise they look really good. As we move further towards the side of the car, you can see the roof rails that you get, which add a bit more of a styling flair to the car and make the car look a little bit more cool, make it look a bit more rugged like an SUV. The back doors I do want to mention as well. The back doors are really easy to open and close. They're really light. You can do it with one finger. And I think that's really good for practicality for rear passengers getting in and out of the car, or if you've got kids and car seats in the back. I will later on in this video talk a little bit more about the rear passenger space, but otherwise that's a plus point. And you can also see on the wheel arches this sort of angular shape you get on both wheel arches, and the wheel arches have this contrasting color, which is really cool. As we move towards the back of the car, you can see again you have the 3 LED rear lamps as well, and you get this sort of chrome trim that goes down the middle of the car. It's not a floating light bar obviously, but it sort of gives a similar sort of vibe, and it makes the car look really wide, even though the car isn't actually that wide. It's about 1.7 meters. At the back you get a tow bar as well with this little cover on it, and the car can tow up to 1.2 tons. So even though it's a subcompact SUV, it can still work hard. Right, so what is the interior of the Suzuki S-Cross like? Well, upon first glance, it doesn't look that special. You've got a load of what feel like cheap plastics, and this leather isn't the best quality either, but I suspect the reason why it's been designed like that so that it can withstand everyday life and punishment. So I think it's all a bit hard wearing, it's all a bit long lasting, and can soak up punishment. You've got the roof actually has this fabric material which you can, if you press this button, you can open up and you get this panoramic sunroof that goes over the driver and passenger and rear passengers as well, and that's about 1 meter long, so you get plenty of light coming in from the top, especially on beautiful sunny days. It really brings a load of light into the cabin and makes everything look a little bit more better. In front of you, you've got the steering wheel, which is multifunctional. You get a load of buttons on there. You can set your cruise control. You can change the volume of the infotainment system, of the audio. Speaking of the infotainment system, you get this screen in the middle. It's a 9-inch screen because this is the Ultra spec, and in the normal Motion spec, you get a 7-inch screen. Now, this screen is really cool. It's got a load of different features, and you've got this sort of bottom bar, which has a load of shortcuts to if you want to go on your phone and if you want to change the volume. Although the response from this screen isn't the best, because every time you press the button it does have a bit of a delay, but you get sat-nav built in as well, which is nice to have, but ultimately you're probably going to use your phone anyway because the car comes with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So that's really cool to have. You've got the climate controls in separate buttons down here, which is again always quite convenient because I hate having to go through touch screens or infotainment systems to change your climate control, simply just if you want to lower the temperature or make the car a little bit warmer. Front two seats, driver's seat and passenger seat, get heated seats. That comes in the Motion and the Ultra Spec, so that's nice to have as well, although they're not as effective as you might have thought. So quite often I do have to have the heated seat on high, although not today because today is really nice and warm. You get storage around the car. You've got door bins, which are decent size. You get glove box, which is decent size as well. You get a little area here at the front where you can just put your phone. It's no charging pad there though, but you can put your phone in there. And then you get these cup holders in the middle, which are really awkward, I thought. They're square shaped and they're too big for smaller bottles, like thinner bottles, but they're too small for bigger bottles, and things can be rattling around all the time. So when I saw these cup holders, I did think they were quite cool that they were square. It sort of satisfied that OCD design in me, but I don't think they're as practical as you'd like. And you've got some more storage in this sort of center armrest as well. Another thing which is interesting is you get a manual handbrake. Now, it's been so long since I've seen a car with a manual handbrake, and that's pretty cool. Again, the other thing that's manual is the seats as well. So the seats aren't electric, they're manual, so you have to move them using levers down here. But have you ever seen those videos where there's somebody in the back seat that's trying to choke you and it tells you to suddenly move the seat back? Well, you can do that in this car. So what's space like in the rear seats? Well, first and foremost, I feel like I'm sat quite upright actually. Which is, I don't know how I feel about that, although what it does mean is that my head is hitting the roof, and a lot of roof space is robbed if you have this panoramic sunroof up here. So that's not great for people that are a little bit taller, but for family life, for kids, nice and great back here. The seats are actually really nice and flat. You don't get a sort of a bump in the middle, which is really easy to sort of move around in. And the space for the feet, for the passenger's feet, isn't robbed as much as you think using the transmission tunnel, because it's actually rather small, which is quite convenient. In the center, you get an armrest with some cup holders here as well. And otherwise, it's rather pleasant at the back here, especially with the panoramic sunroof in the Ultra Spec. You get loads of light back here. The rear windows are tinted as well, but I can't put them down because I haven't got the car started. Speaking of practicality, let's take a look at the boot. So at the boot, you've got this button right here which you can use to open the boot, and it's hydraulically assisted, so it opens up really nicely for you. You get a really large opening for the boot, and the boot space is just shy of 300 litres. The rear seats fold down with a 60-40 split, and you don't get space underneath here because that's where the batteries for the hybrid system are. So not only do you not get some extra space, you don't get a spare wheel either. But what it does mean is you don't necessarily get much of a load lip as you're putting luggage in and out of the car, and you've got this sort of plastic lip here which is quite hard wearing. Again, it's designed to soak up punishment. Plenty of space for luggage, for groceries, for just everyday life really. So yeah, that's the boot space. One thing I will mention about the boot is this boot lid. You've got this handle here which you can use to shut the boot lid, but watch what happens when I shut it. No matter how far down I try to go, it still opens. Look at this. Nearly had it that time. You really have to properly limbo to get the boot shut like that. So what is the Suzuki S-Cross like to drive? Well, I would like to start with the comfort level. Because this car is a hybrid and it has that electric motor assistance to the petrol engine, it means that the car is nice and smooth. The seats are also nice and comfortable. They're just firm enough to give you great amount of back support, to give you some lumbar support when it comes to driving, especially on the bumpy roads. So you're always in a nice, comfortable position. The driving position is good. Loads of great visibility out the front, even out the back, out the sides. You get decent sized wing mirrors. It's a great place to be. If you are not keen on driving, this is a car that can help you as well, because it has a good comfortable ride, it has great visibility, and it's easy to drive. It is really easy, especially when it comes to driving around the city. Again, because of that electric assistance, it feels really nippy and really agile, especially when it comes to parking, because this car has, well, first and foremost, a 10.8 meter turning circle, so it's easy to maneuver, especially if you're doing a 3-point turn or if you're doing U-turns. But when you're parking this car, because this is the ultra spec model, you get 360 degrees cameras, which on the motion trim you don't get 360 degree camera, you only get a rear camera, so that's really quite good. Aside from that, you get a load of safety features with this car, including adaptive cruise control, you get front collision warning, you get lane departure warning, you get cross traffic monitoring. There's loads of great features when it comes to helping the driver and increasing safety. The car is rated 5 stars in the NCAP safety rating, and I can see why. It's got loads of features that can kick in whenever you need. I have had the front collision warning come on a few times when it wasn't necessary, but it's comforting to know that it's always there and it's always on the lookout to keep the occupants safe. Acceleration in this car comes at just over 12 seconds, whereas in the two-wheel drive system, the two-wheel drive version of this car, it comes at just over 11.5 seconds. So because you've got the four-wheel drive version, or at least I have in this version, it's slower to 60. Now, talking about that four-wheel drive system, that all-grip system, most of the time this car drives in two-wheel drive. Even when I put the car into sport mode and when I put the car into snow mode, the car's still driving in two-wheel drive mode. It only will kick into four-wheel drive when it notices that the car needs that assistance, it needs that extra torque from the rear wheels, which so far I've not needed. And I'm quite surprised about that, because this car sits on skinny tires, which upon first glance look like they would struggle with grip, but this car doesn't necessarily struggle with grip. Even though it feels a little bit top heavy, when you are going around corners you will feel that lean, but the grip is always there, and I think that's really comforting in this car. And I suppose it just goes to show a little bit more about the safety of this car when it comes to especially drivers that might not be too keen on driving. You can be safe in the knowledge of that. Again, when it comes to that four-wheel drive system, because this car has the all-grip, the four-wheel drive version, it's less economical on fuel. The fuel economy of this particular vehicle is rated at around 47 miles per gallon, as opposed to in the 50s for the two-wheel drive version. What have I been seeing? What sort of fuel economy have I been seeing with this car? I've been seeing anywhere between 45 and 46 miles per gallon. Now, that is including a journey that I did a couple of days ago, where I went all the way down from Bradford all the way down to Farnborough. So it was about a 4.5 hour journey, over 200 miles, and that includes that journey in there, and it still returned in the high 40s. So this car, I think, is not necessarily suited for motorway driving, for long journeys. It's more suited for your city driving, for maneuvering, for commuting, for going down to the shops, for any sort of convenience that you need. That's what this car is for. And I think practicality wise as well, it offers more than the Vitara. It costs more than the Vitara obviously as well, and of course, because this is the ultra spec, it costs £3,000 roughly more than the motion spec. Now, what do you get for your extra £3,000? Well, you get on the interior, you get leather trim in the seats, you get leather in the door cards. Could you live without it? Probably. You get the 9-inch screen rather than the 7-inch screen. Again, could you live without it? Maybe. You get the panoramic sunroof, which you don't get in the motion spec. Again, could you live without it? Maybe. that 360 degrees cameras that you get, now they're quite convenient in the Ultra spec as compared to the Motion spec. Aside from that, everything else comes as standard, including the heated seats on the front and the driver and the passenger seat, which quite often I have to have on high because I don't always feel it when it's on low. So that's one thing to know. But aside from that, everything else comes as standard, and it's great. This is Suzuki for you. This is Suzuki as a brand. It gives you everything that you need and nothing more. There's no gimmicks, there's no hassle. It's everything that you need, and it comes at a convenient price as well. This Ultra spec comes at just over £30,000, and the Motion spec comes at just under £30,000. So around £28,500 for the Motion spec and around £31,500 for the Ultra spec. That is, yeah, £3,000 more roughly. So when it comes to what I would choose between this and the Vitara, I've not driven the Vitara, but on paper this car seems better, although the Vitara looks better, but that's one of the very few places where the Vitara seems better. When it comes to the S-Cross, however, would I have the Ultra or the Motion? Well, I feel like I could probably live without some of the features that you get in the Ultra and save my money. But £3,000 does not seem like a lot of money compared to what you get, but to some it might. So I don't know, that's entirely up to yourselves, what you would prioritize, what sort of features you need. Let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know in the comments if you would rather have the Ultra spec, the Motion spec, or any other vehicle as well. Let me know what you think about this car. Let me know what you think about the video, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you subscribe to my channel, and hopefully I'll see you on the next video. Take care.